Welcome to this tutorial on how to use Scratch. Scratch is an online game creation program. The entire thing can be done on the internet, and it's very easy to do, and we're going to kind of take a look at how to do it today. So the first thing you have to do is go to Scratch's website, which is scratch.mit.edu, and there is a link to that on my links page. Once you're here, if you already have an account, you can sign in. But for right now, we don't have an account, so we're going to go ahead and join Scratch by clicking this button. You get to choose a Scratch username. I recommend that it be your computer login username and then your password. So I'm going to type in some fakey information here just to get you guys to the next page. Then once you're on the next page, it asks for your birth month and year, your gender, your country, and then your email address. You guys can put in that stuff. And once you do that second step, you are done and ready to go with Scratch. So, once you are logged in and ready to go, we can create our first project. So all we have to do is click this big Create button up here. So, to create a project, it's pretty simple. Let it load up. Now sometimes this editor takes a little while to load, so you may have to be patient with it. And this is your editing window. Now there's a lot to look at here. Basically, this box up in the corner is your game, all right? So it has your game that runs in a box. When you want to start your game, you can click the Start flag. When you want to stop your game, you click the Stop sign. Down here are all the assets for your game. The characters, the backgrounds that you create, the words you want to create, all that stuff is down here in this Sprites section. And then when you click on a sprite, for example, we have Sprite 1 clicked on right now, this huge box over here is what that asset does, what that sprite is capable of doing. Is it capable of moving back and forth? Is it capable of whatever? So today, I think I want to make a game where a ghost is trying to get some cheese puffs. So this is not a ghost, this is a cat, clearly. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this cat. So I'm going to right click on him and I'm going to press delete down here in the sprites thing. Now I don't have any sprites, I have nothing. So I'm going to import a new character. Like I said, I want a ghost that eats cheese puffs. So there's a couple options here for new sprites. This first one, they have a whole library of sprites that I can choose from. The second one is something that I can draw myself. The third one is if I have to upload a sprite, and you're going to be using this because your artist is going to be drawing sprites for you. And this final one here is if I want to make a sprite from a camera. We don't have any cameras. Well, since I'm doing this fairly quickly, I'm just going to hope they have a ghost in their library here, and I'm going to go ahead and choose it. So let's see, ghost would be fantasy, I would say. And there's a ghost right there. It says Ghost 1. I like this little guy. He looks like a friendly ghost. When I double click on him, it pops him right into my program here. Now, you can, the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to move the character around the screen with the arrow keys. So we are going to put in coding that lets you do that. Now, Scratch is a very simple drag and drop program. You see we have these 10 operators here: motion, events, looks, control, sound sensing, pen operators, data, and more blocks. So the first thing we want to do is go to the events operator because we want to tell our ghost what to do when a certain key is pressed. For example, when we press the up key, we want him to go up. So our event operator, I'm going to click and drag it over here. And now when the space key is pressed, the ghost will do something. But I don't want it to be the space key. I want it to be the up key. So I'm going to click this little drop-down menu here. When I click the drop-down menu, it brings me a whole list. So when the up arrow is pressed, well, I want my ghost to go up. So I guess that would be under motion. So let's check under motion. So I want him to point in an upward direction. So I'm going to drag point in direction over there. And you notice it just snaps on. It's got these cool little snaps. And then I want him to move. I don't know what 10 steps is, so that sounds good. Let's just leave it 10 steps. Now what direction do I want him to point in? I want him to point up. Oh, thankfully it gives me a nice little key here. So let's make him move up. Now, for every other key, I just want to replicate this process. When the down arrow is pressed, I want to point him down and move 10 steps. The nice thing is what you can do is you can click on this first command here and press duplicate. When you do that, it's kind of like the copy and paste key. So now I have a copy of this, so I can plop it here. Change this to down arrow. When down arrow is pressed, I want you to move down. So on and so forth. So let me do those, and then I'll be back with you in a sec. Alright, so now that I've popped in all 4 of these directions, I'm going to go ahead and start my game to see if they actually work. So I click that button, and now my game has started. And if I press up, oh my gosh, my ghost is moving up. If I move him left, he moves, oh, that's a little weird, but at least he's moving. All right, if I move him down, he is moving down. And if I move him right, well, he's moving right. That's awesome. All right, so good. So I'm gonna hit the stop button here. It looks like my game is working. Is there any way to fix that flip thing that he did? When I moved him left, he kind of flipped upside down. Well, of course there is. There's a little eye by this ghost. If you click that eye, it has rotation style here for you. Right now, the rotation style is this, which looks like a little loop, which means he can rotate in all directions. When he moves left and right, we want him to just look left and right, which is this second rotation tool. And now if I click on this window, you'll see if we move left, he doesn't flip all the way over. And if we move right, he just goes back the other way, which is exactly what we want. So perfect. I'm gonna hit this back button and go back to that screen. Perfect. So now, we need something for the ghost to do. So let's have him eat some cheese puffs. So I'm going to click this new sprite here again, and I really hope they have cheese puffs here. Let's go to things. I'm just going to go ahead and look for cheese puffs, and oh my gosh, there are some cheesy puffs. Perfect. So if I double click on them, I have a new sprite now. All right, good. So this sprite, let's see, I want the game to be challenging, so I want him to have to catch that sprite, but I want that to move around. So, how am I going to do this? Well, there's several things that I need to do first. So, first off, the event. I don't want this to appear until the game has started. So until I click this green go button, I want that to be off the screen because I don't want people to be able to prepare. So when I click that go button, I want it to pop onto the screen. So I want to set my X coordinate to something and my Y coordinate to something. Because your X and Y are where it appears on your screen, of course. Your X is the back and forth, and your Y is the up and the down. So I'm going to set my X, let's set it to 150. And then I'm going to also set my Y to 150 so that it'll appear somewhere on my screen. Okay, so X is 150 and Y is 150. So when the start button is clicked, it's going to set its parameters to there, and then it's going to do what's called showing itself. So I'm going to go to looks, and then I'm going to say show. So it's going to appear on the screen at 150 by 150. So how do I tell it that when it touches the ghost, it goes away? Well, that's a control message. The control is this. You have to say, wait until, and you're going to wait until these two sprites are touching. But how do there's nothing in this box. Well, now you got to think about what's going to fit in that box. It's like a little hexagon. So we want to go under sensing, because we want to wait until the cheesy poofs are touching. Look, touching is the same shape, and when I drag it over, it highlights it, which means it can go in that box. So I want to wait, I want to make it appear, show it, wait until it's touching my ghost, and then what happens is I want it to hide, because I want it to disappear. Now when it disappears, we need to tell the game that it has disappeared in order to calculate points or to make it reappear in a certain place. So basically what happens is we broadcast a message. This message is never broadcast to the user, it's all behind the scenes. So let's figure out how we broadcast a message. So basically, the broadcast is a message that is never shown on the screen. It's simply in the programming, and it tells the computer to do a certain thing. So basically, it's under the events category, and it says broadcast message 1. Now you're going to want to change the name of the message because you're going to have many messages throughout the course of your game, and you're going to want to keep them all straight. So I'm going to call this message eaten, because it's when the ghost eats the food. So when the ghost touches the food, it's going to broadcast the eaten message, which is going to tell the ghost to do something. Okay, so let's go to the ghost sprite. Now when first of all, he's got all these other things that he already does. But I'm going to add one more thing to his list. When he receives the message eaten, I want something to happen just to confirm that my program is working. When he receives the message eaten, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to have him say the word yum for 1 second or 2 seconds. There we go. So when he receives eaten, he's going to say the word yum just to see if my program works. So at this point, we can kind of test it and see if it works. So I'm going to hit that go button here. Aha, so I'll put the cheese up there. I'm going to have my ghost run up to it and touch it. And when it does, it disappears. He says yum. Looks like it's working awesome so far, guys. So, alright, this is pretty fun, but there's two things that are missing, I think. The first thing is that when the ghost eats the cheesy poofs, they disappear permanently. They're gone. And I want them to reappear somewhere else. The second thing is that they're always set to appear at X150, Y150, which is really kind of boring. So we're going to learn two things. The first one is called a loop. We're going to be able to loop something so that it happens over and over again. So if you would, go into Control, and then under Control, you're going to see a bunch of these things that look like they have little arrows next to them. So it says repeat 10, which means do this thing 10 times. This one says forever. Well, heck, I want it to happen forever. I always want new cheese puffs to come onto the screen. So all you have to do is put everything that you want to happen forever within that forever loop, and suddenly, now here's what this says. I'm going to put forever up here. When I click the start button, it's going to set the cheese puffs to 150, 150, show them, wait until they're touching the ghost, hide them, broadcast eaten, then loop back up to the top and do it all over again. But again, it's just boring having them always appear at 150, 150. So we're going to try and find a way to make it appear at a random place. That's going to be way more fun than just having it appear in the same place every time. So go under Operators. And under Operators, and a lot of these you just kind of have to mess around to see. There's a button that says Pick Random. Aha, so we can have it pick a random number. So instead of always appearing at 150, we can have it pick a random thing. Well, I'll tell you, X runs from negative 240 to 240. So I'm just going to have it pick any random point on the screen. So let me click that 1 and replace it with negative 240. And then click this 10 and replace it with positive 240. And Y, I want the exact same thing, except Y doesn't run 240 to 240. Well, there we go. Y runs negative 170 to 170. So I'm going to take this pick random, put it up here under Y, and then I'm going to tell it to go anywhere from negative 170 to positive 170. And now it's going to appear somewhere on the screen every time, but never in the same place. The only other thing I want to do is that I don't want it to reappear immediately. I want you to have to wait a second. So go under Control, and under Control there's a thing that says Wait. So let's have it, after it broadcasts that message of eaten, let's have it wait a sec and then appear in a different place. Okay? Now let's try this out. Press that start button. Aha! Whoa, did you see it appear randomly? And now when the ghost grabs it, it's going to say yum. Wait a second. Oh, it appeared in a different place. That is pretty super cool. The ghost can grab it. It can reappear in a different place. So the only thing we're missing now is a bit of challenge. There's got to be some way for the ghost to lose the game, or even to win the game. There's got to be some end goal. So let's move into what happens for an end goal. I'll hit the start button, or the stop button here. All right, so I got my ghost, and he can eat these cheese puffs. But now I feel like I need some sort of enemy for him to sort of fight. So let's see. I need an enemy. So let me get a new sprite here. And I'm going to choose it from the library. And it's, oh, I don't know. I'm just going to go down this list here real quick. Who would be trying to protect their cheese puffs from this ghost? I think, of course, it would be Jay here. Jay would be trying to protect his cheese puffs from the ghost. So I'm going to double-click on Jay just to add him to this game. And, boy, Jay's such a jolly little character here. The problem, I think, with Jay is that, first off, he's just a little too big for me. He's taken up a lot of the screen. So I want to make him smaller. So when I click this start button, I want him to look and act smaller. So I do the when start button is clicked, and then I'm going to go to looks. And then I'm going to say change, set size to, and then I'm going to set his size. I want him to be like maybe 50% smaller. So set size to 50%. And once you do that, let's just see. I'm going to click this play button just to see kind of how Jay looks now. Oh, perfect. Yeah, he's a little tiny guy. Yep, looks good. All right, so how am I going to get him to be the enemy? When he touches the ghost, I want the game to be over. I want the ghost to have lost. So, well, he can't just stand there. Obviously, he needs to move around the screen, just like the ghost is and the cheesy puffs are and all that stuff. So when this start button is clicked, I think I'm going to have him start at a random place. I think that seems like that would be the best thing to do. So I'm going to go to motion. And I'm going to have him start at random X and random Y. So just like my cheesy poofs. So set X, I'll have that X set to a random number. And then I'm also going to have my Y set to a random number. So set that up just like you did before, using the random number thing in the operators block. Okay, so I've got these things set here, these two different numbers. And now I'm going to go ahead and when he's set to those numbers, I'm going to show him on the screen. He's simply going to appear. So he will show up. And then once he shows up, he's going to wait until he touches the ghost. And then he's going to send out a new flag. So if you go under control, you're going to wait until, just like we had the cheesy puffs wait until they touched the ghost. So we are also going to wait until, go to sensing, you are touching from the drop down menu, ghost. So wait until you're touching the ghost, and then when you touch the ghost, you're going to broadcast something. So just like the cheesy puffs broadcast the eaten message, these guys are going to broadcast a message. So you're going to go under the events and broadcast. I'm going to have it broadcast a new message. And let's see, this new message is going to be called Ghost Dead. Even though everybody knows ghosts are already dead, how silly. Alright, so that's the end of that train. So then I'll make the ghost do something when he receives the Ghost Dead message, which we'll have in one sec. But I also don't want Jay to just stand around. When I click this button, he's already going to a certain place. Oh, I forgot to stop my game so long ago. When I click this button, he's already going to a random place, but then I want him to move around the screen. So when that's clicked, when the start button is clicked, what I want him to do is I want him, to point in the direction. And he's going to point in, I want him to point in a random direction, because I don't want the player to exactly know where he's going to be. So he's going to point in a direction, and I want him to pick a random direction between 1 and 90. And then when he's doing that, he's going to pick the direction, and then I want a forever loop, because I want him forever to continue walking in that direction. So when that start button is clicked, you're going to pick a random direction, and then forever you are going to move. I want him to be slower than my ghost. My ghost moves 1 step, or my ghost moves 10 steps. So I think I want Jay here to move 1 step. So I'm going to change that 10 to a 1, so he is not as quick as my ghost. But here's the problem with that. If I do it as is, Jay is going to move, he's going to pick a random direction, he's going to move a step, and then he's going to keep moving, and he's going to go off the screen. So we have this handy button here that says, if on edge, bounce. Alright? So if we put that on in, and then we put the start button 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 in, and then we put the st Now, when J touches the edge, he's going to bounce and then move in a different direction, okay? So if we hit the play button, we can kind of see, and J's moving, and when he bounces, he moves down, and I'm moving my ghost over to eat those cheese puffs. I got him. Okay, so now I have an obstacle. I have something for my ghost to avoid in order for him not to get killed. The only problem with Jay real quick is that his sprite is doing that weird flippy thing that the ghost sprite did at first. So I'm going to make sure that Jay can only rotate left and right and not in every direction. There we go. Happy little guy. All right. So I think we have a new switch here. Now we want the the ghost to disappear, or we want the game to be over, in fact, when the ghost gets that message of game over. So how do we do that? Well, we can go to the ghost sprite to do that. Now we want the ghost to, when he receives that message, to do something. So go under events. Under events, you'll see when I receive eaten. And we have when I receive eaten before. When he receives eaten, he says yum for 2 seconds, which is right here. But now I want him to, when he receives the ghost dead message, I want him to completely disappear from the screen so my player cannot play anymore. So under looks, I'm going to click this, press this hide button. Okay. And then what's going to happen is I want everything to stop. I don't want you to be able to grab cheese puffs anymore. So what I'm going to do is under control, I'm going to say stop all, and that is the end. So when the ghost receives the message that he is dead because he has touched J, he's going to disappear and all the action on the screen is going to stop. J is going to stop, the cheesy puffs are going to stop moving, everything is going to stop. Okay, so I want a way to win the game. So what I need to do is I'm going to paint a new sprite that says you win. That's pretty simple, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this paint new sprite button, and then I'm just going to write the words you win. So text box, okay, text box, it says you win. I'm going to make it green, and done and done. That's pretty easy. Okay, so I have a sprite that says you win on it. Now, you'll notice up here that there are scripts, costumes, and sounds that you can use. So I'm going to go back to my scripts here. So I have a sprite that says you win. Now, this sprite is automatically on my screen, and that's not really what I want. So my events, what I'm going to do is when the start button is clicked, it is going to hide itself. So as soon as the game starts, no one will see the you win button. So pretty easy. Now, I want it to appear at a certain point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable. Now, I know this sounds crazy, so stick with me here, okay? Make a variable. And what this variable's name is going to be is it's going to be called score. Now, I'm going to make it for all sprites and click OK. Now you notice when I have this thing up here, it shows the score in the corner, which is good. So when the game starts, this sprite is going to set the score to 0. So if there's been a previous score from a previous game, it's going to reset it to 0. And then what's going to happen is, after I hit a certain point, it's going to display the you win sprite and shut everything down. So let's do that. So it's going to wait, and it's going to wait until it receives something very specific. So it's going to wait until, so we need something that's kind of this hexagon shape. So I want to wait until something equals something. In fact, in this case, I want to wait until my count is equal to, we'll say 2. Once you get 2, you win. I know that's a really low number, but I just want to make something that, you know, we can see feasibly within the time that we're here. So I want you to wait until the score equals 2. And once the score equals 2, game, then what you're going to do, yeah, go ahead and write the number 2 in there. What you're going to do is you are going to show this you win sprite. And then just like before, you're going to make everything stop. So control, stop, all. Alright, that's pretty easy. So here's what this says. When you click the start button, you win goes away, and it sets the score to 0. And then when the score equals 2, it says you win, and everything stops. It's pretty easy, and people can keep track of their score in the corner. It automatically added that score counter there, which is pretty sweet. So, but my game still doesn't know that when to increase this score number. It doesn't know that when the ghost reaches the Cheesy Puffs that I want the score to go up by 1. So how do I tell it that? Well, what I'm going to ask is this You Win button. I'm going to say, hey, You Win button. When you receive that broadcast eaten, so when the Cheesy Poofs get eaten, then what I want you to do is go to data, and I want you to change that score by 1. That's it. Change means add to score by 1. So if I wanted to make negative score, I would say change score by -1. So the only thing left for me to do is to go into the Ghost's sprite and do one thing. I just have to remember that after he dies, he's hidden and everything stops, and then even if I press the start button again, he's not going to appear. So I have to tell him, hey, when that start button hits, no matter what's going on, you show your face. And that should make our game work. So let's see if that makes the game work. So I'm going to hit the start button here. Here we go. Ooh, now it might be a little slow on this computer here, but oh my gosh, it's terribly slow. All right. Oh, I just narrowly avoided Jay there. I'm going to go down. I'm going to eat my cheese puffs. And as you can see, Jay should be running a lot slower than I am. Oh! The second cheese puffs appeared exactly where I was standing, and therefore I won. And the game stopped. Everything stopped. It said you win. Jay stopped moving. The cheesy puffs stopped appearing. Guys, we have a functional game here. Now the only thing left to do is to make it look pretty. We can add a backdrop. We can add all sorts of stuff. We can add sounds. But you guys can figure that out. Guys, we created a functional game. That's pretty amazing. Give it a try for yourself and see what you can do.